Hey family, good morning to you because this is the day that the Lord has made. And I wanted to jump on and encourage your heart today as we continue to share in the Word of God. And this morning, I want to continue in our walk through the book of Psalms. And I want to tell you first that God is a keeper, but today I want to tell you to keep on pushing because we're going to look at Psalms 23 and verse 4. And it says, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil." Now, if you would allow me in these few moments, I just want to tell you with everything we got going on in the world today, I just come by just to let you know, don't stop, but keep pushing. And the reason why you and I need to be encouraged to keep pushing is because it's hard in today's time not to stop, not to give up and quit and keep on pushing. It's hard to keep pushing and find some sense of peace and strength with all that we have to deal with today. How can we keep pushing with all the stress that's in our lives? How can we keep pushing through all of our pains and all of the bad news that's even in the media that's going on today? How can we keep pushing with all the drama that's being presented to us every day, not just from the White House, but from our own house? How can we keep pushing when we see what's going on, where we are going through trying to find strength? How can we just keep pushing when every day there's something going on? There's something that's going to be depressing. It's depressing to look at your bank account. It's depressing to come home and find your situation. It's depressing to go to church and think you can meet some nice people only to find out they're the meanest people in the city. It gets depressing. And how can we have the energy that we need to keep pushing when we're tired, when we're weary, when we're frustrated, when we're straining just to get up in the morning? And can I tell you that it's hard out here, not just for pimps, but it's hard out here for Christians too. It's hard for you and I to keep a grip on our hope and hold on to our joy, because everything we think life is, once it settles, life will shake us again. And it's not that you and I, that we ain't good people, that you're not a good person, but life can become tumultuous. Life can become tedious. Life can be challenging, and even to the point that life can get problematic to all of us. And just because we know Jesus don't mean we still don't go through, because you can be faithful and still be frustrated. You can be saved and still struggle. You can be obedient and still feel overwhelmed. You can be a worshiper and even get weary sometimes, because life can just be too much. But yet I come by just to declare over your life that through Psalms 23 and verse 4, I want to tell you, keep on pushing. Because the devil wants you to give up. The devil wants you to throw in the towel. But I come to remind you that you've already been through too much to give up now. As a matter of fact, you ought to stop right now and give God a praise that you've still been pushing against everything that's been pushing against you. Because believe it or not, you've already made it through jealousy in January, frustrations in February, mess in March, aggravation in April, mistakes in May, jokers and junk in June and July, had adversity in August, dealt with struggles in September, and we still got obstacles in October. And there's still a few neighbors that we still got gonna get on our last nerve in November. But can I tell you, through it all, here you are still breathing, still doing the doggone thing, because what you already been through didn't really hurt you. And that's enough right there to give God the praise. And the writer of the Psalms, he gives us the strength we need to keep pushing. And he starts off by saying, "The Lord is my shepherd, and I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures." Oh, I love this psalm, because he said he leads me beside still waters, and he restores my soul, and he leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And then we get down to that fourth verse, and the writer there, David, he pens, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death." And let me pause right here, because I'm just glad that this verse doesn't say, say, yea, though I sit in the valley, yea, though I complain through the valley, yea, though I throw a pity party in the valley, but it says, yea, though I walk, which suggests that he ain't stopping, but he's walking. And I don't know about you, but as I get older in my life, I just thank God that I'm still walking. And for somebody listening to me, you ought to thank God that you're still walking through the stuff that should have killed you. You still got your equilibrium. You still got your balance. As a matter of fact, you're still walking through stuff that killed other people. And might I also pause and add that the text there, it even says, I'm walking through, but not running through. Because the only thing worse than quitting is rushing through your problems. Because if you rush through or run through, you can miss what God is trying to show you. Because no matter how bad life gets, there's always a lesson to be learned. There's a lesson for your loneliness. There's a sermon for your sleeplessness. There's gold in your going through. There's some gospel that's in your garbage. But if you rush through, you're going to miss what God's trying to show you. And the text points out that because the psalmist said he was walking, he got to see the shadow of death. If he would have been rushing through, he might have wrote it was death that he saw. But he says he walked, which means he got a good perspective on what was trying to scare him. And what he thought he was losing sleep over was just a shadow. And I don't know who this is for, but somebody listening to me right now, you've been losing sleep over shadows. And what you ought to be thanking God for is the only way you and I see shadows is that light has to be shining from somewhere. Ooh, this is good. Because you can either focus on the darkness from the shadow, or you can focus on the light that's still on. And even in your dark season, there's some light somewhere. And I come by to tell you that whatever it is that's scaring you, it's just a shadow. Your bank account might be low, but it's just a shadow. I know you got to go to work and you walk into a room where you think people are always talking about you, but I come by to tell you it's just a shadow. I know your family might be on your last nerve, but it's just a shadow. And if I can prophesy over you today and let you know that God will never let it be as bad as it looks. It's just a shadow. And the psalmist says, I kept on walking. I kept on pushing through it. Because can I tell you, there's always some blessings that's on the other side. There's also always some blessings on your going through. And the reason you have to keep pushing is because on the other side of midnight, on the other side of the pain, on the other side of the grief, on the other side of the issue, on the other side of this pandemic, on the other side of the argument, on the other side of the disappointment, there's always some blessings on the other side. And the psalmist in the text shows us three blessings that I want to leave with you before I go. And number one, the psalmist says he lets us know that God will always go before you. Because if you read the rest of the Psalms, down in verse 5, he says that God will prepare a table before you in the presence of your enemies. And this psalm is really a good depiction of what God is in being the good shepherd and how we are as crazy sheep. See, the craziness of the sheep will never cancel the goodness of the shepherd. And a good shepherd never allows the sheep to go eat or to graze without first checking out the environment, because sheep will eat anything, and the shepherd has to make sure that there's no foliage that could harm the sheep or cause the sheep to get sick. So the good shepherd goes out and prepares the table, or the land, should I say, and the text goes on to say that it's in the presence of mine enemies. And sheep can't protect themselves. They always being hurt because they're easy prey. If anybody knows anything about sheep, there are always some wolves, some coyotes, some cougars that are hunting in the mountains looking for sheep, looking to attack the sheep. But the shepherd knows that predators are all around, but the presence of the shepherd keeps the predators away. So the sheep can eat without being schizophrenic about the presence of their enemies. And for somebody listening right now, you're alive right now because not because of your intelligence, not because of your street smarts, not because you're so sophisticated, but because God prepared your table and dared any devil to come up on you. Because over in Isaiah, I read that no weapon formed against you will prosper. And even though you didn't get everything that you wanted this past year, even though We're going through a pandemic. You're making it through without being schizophrenic. You're making it through without going bipolar, because no weapon can hurt you when God's presence is with you. And it's God that goes before you and makes the way plain for you. And you can be living your best life and not have to go back and forth with nobody, because God will give you peace in the middle of what could have killed you. But I dare you to type in the comments right now, He goes before me. That's right. He goes before me. You looking for a new career? God's already gone before you. You're looking for promotion? Can I tell you, God has already gone before you. He's the good shepherd. He's our Redeemer and our keeper. The scripture goes on to say that now unto Him that's able to keep you from falling, because He goes before you, and you just need to keep reminding yourself, don't worry about nothing this week, because God has already gone before you. He not only blesses you by going before you, but He also blesses you, watch this, number 2, by putting something on you. Because if you keep reading in verse 5, He says, thou anointest my head with oil. And the reason why the good shepherd has to anoint sheep, can I tell you, he puts oil on their head is because their nostrils oftentimes get moisture. And it's the shepherd's job to make sure that no parasites crawl in the sheep's head and get into the nose, because these parasites can lay larvae and produce maggots. And without oil, the sheep can get irritated, because there's so much going on in his head that he can't do anything about. And because the sheep got so much going on in its head, it can't sleep and it gets infected. The sheep can be seen banging their head against rocks because they need to try to get some relief, because there's too much going on in their head. But see, the good shepherd knows when parasite season is coming. He knows when gnat season is coming. And so he pours oil on their face, because he knows that it's the oil that keeps insects away. And every morning he anoints the sheep with oil, because he knows when he puts the oil on, some stuff can't just get up in their head. And it works the same way for you and I, because when you got God's oil on you, you're too anointed to be annoyed. Stuff that bothers other people won't even bother you, because you're too anointed. And anointed, let me tell you something, you're too anointed to go through. You know folks talk about you, but you got to be so much oil that you're anointed and still can smile and say hi. Can I just prophesy to your day today, and that you're too anointed today to be bothered? Just type that in the comments. I'm too anointed to be bothered. Some of the stuff that got some people stuck in life, you still sliding through. It's not that you didn't get the blow. It's not that you didn't feel the pain. It wasn't that you didn't think about it, but you got oil on you, and you don't handle everything like everybody else, because there's some oil on you. Because when you got oil on your life, it changes the way you deal with your issues. It changes the way you face your storms. And let me tell you something, and it don't matter what you're walking through, because when you got some oil on you, it will change the way you handle certain seasons. Not only will it change your season, but it will change the way you handle certain people. As a matter of fact, it'll change the way you handle yourself, because his oil will cause you to slip through stuff. You'll slip through cancer. You'll slip through a lie. You'll slip through a rumor. You'll slip through some mess. And I know you might not want everybody to know what God helped you slip through, but just type in the comments, I slipped through it. That's right. I slipped through it. I should have been caught, but I slipped through it. I should have been fired, but I slipped through it. I should have not been hired, but I slipped through it. I should have died in the accident, but I slipped through it. I should have lost my mind, but I slipped through it, because his oil is on me. And the next portion of the verse says that not only do you have to keep pushing, because God will go before you, and not only do you have to keep on pushing, because God will put something on you, but here's my last point. My last point is that you got to keep on pushing, because God will also put something behind you. And I was always told that over in Ephesians chapter 6 that God will give us the whole armor of God. and that he will give us the breastplate of righteousness, and we got the belt of truth, we got the helmet of salvation, and we got the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. But I have to ask God, I had to go to him and say, God, why was there nothing in Ephesians 6 to talk about being attacked from the back? Because all of us in this life will have to deal with some backstabbers. Oh, you better hear me good. And then one day I read this in Psalm 23 verse 6, and it said, surely goodness and mercy are going to follow me all the days of my life. And I looked at that one word surely, and that one word surely means absolutely. That word surely means without a doubt. Surely means unequivocally. Surely means for real, for real. Surely means keeping it 100. That goodness and mercy are going to follow me. It's going to follow you all the days of our life. And I got to go. But now, can I tell you, keep on pushing, because God got your back covered. Keep on pushing, because whatever you're going through in this season, I come by to tell you that your back is covered. God's got your back. When they start hating on you, know that God's got your back. No matter what you got to deal with this week, God got your back. And my time is up. But I just want you to know, keep pushing, because God has gone before you. Keep pushing, because God got something on you. Keep pushing. You're not going to get stuck here. You're not going to die here. But God has put something on you to cause you to slip through. And you can keep pushing, because God's got his grace and his mercy covering you. So don't stop pushing this week. Keep pushing. You're going to walk through right into your blessings. You got to keep the faith and keep on pushing, because your blessing is on the other side. I'll talk to you again next week. God bless you. Let's meet next week. I'm out.